Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. Thomas Frank's first Champions League squad as Tottenham boss has sparked controversy, 6 players axed, and one decision in particular raising eyebrows. While injuries and fitness concerns explain some omissions, the exclusion of Mathys Tel, a £51 million summer signing tipped for a breakout season, has left many Spurs fans questioning whether the club has repeated its old European mistakes. Thomas Frank always faced a difficult decision when it came to picking his Tottenham squad for this season's edition of the Champions League. Spurs have had major issues in terms of naming a European squad in the past due to UEFA regulations, although not quite to the extent of the 2025/26 campaign. The Dane didn't just have to leave out 1 or 2 Tottenham players, instead had to axe a total of 6, which is a massive failure on the club's part. Some decisions were fairly straightforward, such as James Maddison and Dejan Kulusevski missing the cut due to their injuries, and some were not. Yves Bissouma was another player to be dropped amid the prospect of him potentially leaving, with the transfer window still remaining open in certain European leagues. Radu Dragusin also missed out, as he works his way back to fitness from the ACL injury he suffered back in January, with fellow centre-back Kota Takai also one of the unlucky ones to be axed. The 6th and final player to be given the bad news was Mathys Tel. Antonin Kinski and Wilson Odobert may have been the other players at risk, but it was the summer addition from Bayern Munich who was cruelly dropped by Frank. It was an extremely harsh call, and one that many have since questioned. It was not the news the player, who is currently away on France under-21 duty, wanted and perhaps even expected. Tel's omission from this season's squad does not have to be the end of his Champions League story though. His teammate Jed Spence is the perfect example, after finding himself in exactly the same position 1 year ago when Ange Postecoglou selected his Europa League squad. As clubs are permitted to make a maximum of 3 squad changes before the knockout phase, Spence was rewarded for his good domestic form with a place in the Europa League party. He would end the season with a Europa League winners' medal around his neck after Tottenham beat Manchester United 1-0 in the final. Tel could force his way back into the squad come the start of February, providing of course that Tottenham do secure a place in the knockout round. Kulusevski will certainly be knocking on the door, and the same goes for Dragusin, with Spurs potentially having new January signings to consider as well. The absence of Tel for Tottenham's league phase fixtures could leave Frank's side slightly short up front. On UEFA's website, Dominic Solanke, Richarlison, and new signing Randall Kolo Muani are listed as the team's 3 strikers. The Tottenham boss has adequate options there, but he may have a big issue if injury strikes. Many have pointed to Solanke's current injury and question marks over his exact return date, while Richarlison has endured numerous injury woes in his 3 seasons in N17 and has struggled to be available week in, week out at times since joining from Everton. It seemed to be a no-brainer to have Tel in the squad for that reason, but that is no longer the case. The ex-Rennes man will now have to try and get his minutes domestically as he bids for a big season at Tottenham. That may be easier said than done, as he has only played a total of 30 minutes across 3 appearances in the team's opening 4 games of the season. Frank has plenty of options out wide, with Kolo Muani boosting the numbers this week following his switch from PSG on deadline day, and that may in turn limit Tel's football. There is no doubt that the Sarcelles-born player is very talented, and Tottenham have only seen glimpses of his quality so far. The 2025/26 season was always viewed as the season where Tel would make his mark in the capital, after having the final 4 months of last season to adapt to his new surroundings and new league, after initially joining on loan from Bayern Munich. That will hopefully be the case in the months ahead, but Tel is now in a position where he can only feature domestically, and he will be watching on from the stands in Europe's premier competition. Certainly a cruel blow, and something more of Tottenham's own doing due to their long-standing European squad issues. Tel now has to use it as fuel and show Frank that he was wrong to cut him from his Champions League squad. Tottenham's summer rebuild is complete, but will it be enough to push Thomas Frank's side to the next level? With marquee signings like Xavi Simons and Mohamed Kudus through the door, and deadline day drama delivering Randall Kolo Muani, Spurs look refreshed. Yet as the dust settles, questions remain. Have they truly solved their biggest problems, or will January already beckon for reinforcements? Time will tell if Tottenham's transfer business for the 2025/26 season proves to be a big success or not. The North London club were active in the summer market as they added some fresh faces to Thomas Frank's squad. Signing Kota Takai and Mohamed Kudus from Kawasaki Frontale and West Ham respectively, Spurs then struck a loan agreement with Bayern Munich for Joao Palhinha, and they also completed the £51.8 million signing of Xavi Simons from RB Leipzig. Randall Kolomuani was the last to arrive after Tottenham concluded a loan agreement with PSG on deadline day. Tottenham also completed the permanent signings of Kevin Danso and Mathys Tel following their loan moves in the second half of last season, and Luka Vuskovic finally linked up with the club almost 2 years on from the initial agreement with Hajduk Split for the talented centre-back. Following the closure of the Premier League transfer window at 7 p.m. on Monday evening, clubs will now have to wait until January for the market to reopen. Here we take a look at 3 transfers Johan Lang and Tottenham may want to look at come the start of 2026. Tottenham failed to bring in another centre-back option in what remained of the summer transfer window. Vuskovic's loan move to Hamburg could potentially leave Spurs a tad short there, considering the current fitness of 2 players, especially if Frank wants to switch to a back 3, as he did against PSG in the UEFA Super Cup final. Radu Dragusin and Kota Takai are working their way back to fitness at present, and it remains to be seen when exactly they will return to first-team action. As things stand right now, Kevin Danso and Ben Davies can cover for Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven if needed. The last thing Tottenham will want is for an injury crisis to strike again in such a key area of the pitch. It could be one to look at in January when the transfer window reopens. Tottenham have added another option on the left wing, with Kolo Muani joining on a season-long loan deal from PSG. The French international is a striker, but he also has experience of playing on the wing. The exit of Son Heung-min to LAFC has left a big hole considering the goals, assists and top performances he brought to the team on a regular basis. Frank does have lots of choice on the left at present, but Spurs may decide that they need an out-and-out left winger to find the long-term solution to Son's exit. Tottenham may need to add to their options at fullback, either in January or in next summer's transfer market. Djed Spence's versatility means he can cover Pedro Porro at right back and Destiny Udogie on the opposite side of the pitch, with his best football for Spurs so far coming at left back. Davies can also fill in at left back, and Archie Gray has played in both positions in the past when needed. Tottenham could do with a specialist fullback though, and which side may come down to what Frank believes is Spence's best position. Tottenham may have pulled off the coup of the summer with Xavi Simons, but the North Londoners weren't done dreaming big. On deadline day, whispers grew louder of an audacious swoop for Manchester City's Brazilian talent Savinho, a move that promised fireworks but now hangs in the balance. As Pep Guardiola shuts the door, Tottenham Hotspur could follow their £51.8 million acquisition of Xavi Simons with an audacious deadline day swoop for Manchester City winger Savinho. If Thomas Frank's side were to pursue their interest in the Brazilian, they would have the ideal shirt number waiting for him. The North Londoners have been linked with the 21-year-old who was sidelined during City's 2-1 defeat at Brighton and Hove Albion and their recent 2-0 loss to Tottenham at home. Recent reports claimed the winger is concerned his move to Tottenham might fall through, leaving him battling for a spot at City, alongside Jeremy Doku, Bernardo Silva, Oscar Bob, Rayan Cherki and Omar Marmoush. Spurs were reportedly prepared to make a £65 million bid for the versatile winger. But with Cherki out for at least 2 months according to Pep Guardiola, a move could prove challenging. Recent reports claim the winger is concerned his move to Tottenham might fall through, leaving him battling for a spot at City, alongside Jeremy Doku, Bernardo Silva, Oscar Bob, Rayan Cherki and Omar Marmoush. Spurs were reportedly prepared to make a £65 million bid for the versatile winger, but with Cherki out for at least 2 months according to Pep Guardiola, a move could prove challenging. Had the deal been finalised a fortnight earlier, Spurs could have offered him the number 7 shirt, a number he briefly sported during his time at PSV Eindhoven U21s. However, Simons was handed the number 7 when he was officially presented at the beginning of last week. Squad numbers might be the least of the winger's concerns, as his hopes of securing a switch to North London appear to be hanging by a thread. TBR Football reported Savinho was keen on a move to North London, with discussions between the two clubs initially appearing encouraging. It has also been suggested any potential deal was dependent on City bringing in Real Madrid winger Rodrigo, who has found himself out of favour under Xabi Alonso at the Bernabeu. With no transfer between City and the Spanish giants seemingly materialising, Savinho could be forced to remain at the Etihad. Last week, ESPN reported City have told Tottenham that Savinho, who is yet to appear in the new Premier League season following a pre-season knock, is not available for purchase. This stance may have been strengthened by the injury blow to summer acquisition Cherki. Speaking in his post-match press conference following the loss to Brighton, Guardiola revealed the Frenchman faces approximately 2 months on the sidelines with a torn left quadricep. He has already been substituted by in-form Liverpool striker Hugo Ekitike in the French national team squad for their World Cup qualifiers against Ukraine and Iceland. When questioned whether City's loss to the Seagulls or Cherki's injury might prompt a last-minute scramble on transfer deadline day, Guardiola simply responded, "No, the loss left City languishing in 13th place, following a 2-0 defeat at home to Tottenham in their previous match. On the other hand, Frank's team failed to build on their impressive performance against Guardiola's side last week, suffering a disappointing home defeat to Bournemouth." Despite dominating possession, Spurs were fortunate the final scoreline was only 1-0 as Bournemouth launched 20 attempts on goal, resulting in Guglielmo Vicario making save after save.